Hi everyone. Today we're going to be going over Wednesday's Give Me 5 for page number 3. Okay, Wednesday's Give Me 5 for page number 3. For the first column, it wants us to round to the underlined place. Now, before we get started with this question, I want to go over rounding in general. So I made this, here we go. So rounding. First, underline the place value they want you to round to. Well, for us, on the Give Me 5, it's already done for us. On Wednesday, they want us to round to the nearest ones, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So step 1, underline the place value they want you to round to. Then number 2, circle the number to the right. Okay. And 3, use the rounding rule, 5 or more, raise the score, which means round up. Or 4 or less, let it rest, which means round down. And if you want to pause and take a picture or whatever, all that good stuff, do you. Okay, so problem number 1. Now, I already have it done. I'm going to explain how I got my answer, okay? So 13 and 80 hundredths, okay? And then if you notice on your question, it had the ones place, okay? So they want us to figure out, are we going to round down to 13? Or are we rounding up to 14? Because those are the nearest ones, okay? 13 and 14. And how we're going to figure that out is we're going to use these steps that I just showed you. So we've already done step 1, underline the place value they want you to round to. Bam, they have the ones place underlined, okay? That 3, okay? Step 2. Circle the number to the right, okay? If you don't know your left and right, okay? Make an L with both of your hands. The hand that makes the correct L is your left. The one that doesn't is the right, okay? So circle the number to the right, okay? That is going to be the 8. That number that we circle is going to tell us, are we going to round down or are we going to round up, okay? And this is where step 3 comes in. Use the rounding rule. Is the number we circled 5 or more, raise the score, or is it 4 or less, let it rest? Well, I know 8 falls in the 5 or more, raise the score. So boys and girls, I'm going to raise my score. And my answer is 14. Okay, let's move on to the second column, which is decimal to fraction or fraction to decimal, whichever one they're asking you to do. In this case, they give us the fraction 7 hundredths, okay? 7 over 100, 7 hundredths. And they want us to convert that. They want us to know, okay, what is the equivalent decimal? And for these fractions, now I already have it done, but I'm going to explain how I got my answer. Okay, they want us to find the equivalent decimal for 7 over 100, 700. Okay, so I like to think of money. Okay, 7 over 100 is not a whole yet. But I know if I think of coins, I know 100 pennies make $1, which is like a whole, okay? So if I have 7 pennies out of 100 to make a whole, I have 7 cents. Well, how do I write 7 cents as a decimal? Decimal 07. That 7 is in the hundreds place. The hundreds place. And if I was talking too fast, you can rewind and watch that whole part again. I know I'm talking a little fast, but I don't want to make the video too long because it's going to get boring, and I know y'all's attention spans. Okay, so the next column is decimals. In this question, they are wanting you to subtract 7 and 1/10 minus 2 and 53 hundredths, okay? So I'm going to write that on my, let's use the small board. Okay, and if you haven't done this already, you can work it out with me. If you've done it already, then you could be checking your work and following along. So I'm going to start off, by writing. I already have the answer and stuff done, but we're going to do it together. what number, when I set this up to solve, what number am I going to put on top? That's right. I'm going to put the bigger number on top. So I'm going to put 7 and 1/10, okay, at the top. And then underneath it, my boo's calling. Underneath it, I'm going to put 2 and 53/100ths. Now, there's a very, very, very important thing that I told you to remember when you're adding and subtracting decimals. Who remembers? That's right, you need to line up your decimals, because when you line up your decimals, you're making sure all your numbers are lined up by place value, because if they're not lined up by place value, then your answer is going to be wrong when you solve it. So here we go. This is how my problem looks like. Now, if you notice, that 3 has nothing to subtract from. So we're going to add a placeholder 0. And I'm going to do that in a different color, just so you know that we added that. We added that placeholder 0, and that's okay. Okay, so now let's solve. 0 minus 3. Well, I know I can't take anything away from 0, so I'm going to have to go and ask my neighbor for some. So, hey, he's going to give me 1, so this becomes a 0, and this 0 becomes, I like to cross it out and just write the new number on top, but I know some of y'all like to just write the 1 right next to it, and that's totally fine, whatever you need to do, okay? Now I can subtract 10 minus 3. 10 minus 3, 7. 0 minus 5, I can't do that, so I have to go borrow 1. That becomes a 6. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. Don't forget to drop your decimals straight down. And 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 and 57/100 is your answer. All right, nice job. The next column is the solve and label. This is when we are seeing strip diagrams, okay? This strip diagram is made out of parts and a whole, okay? So let's take a look at the information that we have to determine what operation we're going to be doing for this particular problem. First, let's go ahead and identify and label what information they have given us. Well, I know I have my whole, so I'm going to write a W on top of that. I'm going to identify that and label it whole. And I know I have one part and I'm missing that what's highlighted. That's my missing part. That's what I'm going to solve for. Well, I know from this part and this part together make up this whole entire whole. So I need to figure out what plus 386 is going to give me 1,000. And in order to figure that out, I know I need to subtract. When I have my whole and I'm missing a part in my strip diagram, I know I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to do that on my board. Okay, I have 1,000 minus 386. Notice how all my numbers are lined up by place value. Nice and neat. Now, if you're good, if you can make sure they're lined up by place value without drawing the line, that's great. If you have to draw the lines, do what you have to do to be successful, okay? Let's start off in the ones place. 0 minus 6, I know I can't do that, so I'm going to go to my neighbor. They ain't got none either, so I got to go to my next door neighbor. And they ain't got none either, so I got to go to the one in the thousands place, okay? So he's going to let me borrow, he's going to give this 1 to the 10 over here. That's going to become a 0. So, you see that? Now that's a 10. Okay, well, this dude still needs some, and this dude still needs some, so he's going to give 1 to this guy. Okay, so far this is what I got. This guy still needs 1, so it's like, okay, all right, I'll give you 1. So this becomes a 9, and that 1 Give it to the 0, make it a 10. Bam. Now we can subtract. What is 10 minus 6? 10 minus 6, 4. Got my mental math going on. 9 minus 8 is 1. 9 minus 3 is 6. And 0 minus nothing is 0. We don't even have to bother writing anything. So your final answer is 614. That missing part is 614. I'm going to go back to my paper, and maybe I'll put P equals 614, that missing part. Bam. Okay? We're almost done. All right. Now, these 3 basic multiplication facts, we have 9 times 8, 8 times 10, and 9 times 12. Let's start off with 9 times 8. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 8 is 72. All right. 8 times 10. 10s are my favorite because they are so easy. 8 times 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. 8 times 10 is 80. And last one. This one's kind of tricky. I'm not an expert at my 12s. But 9 times 12 is... Does anybody know?